Good day, peeps. Welcome to Heart Talks. I'm Sheila Jean Burgher, and today my guest is Ron Head. Ron, you were on my original guest list, so thank you for making this happen. And welcome to Heart Talks.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Ron practices the Dolores Cannon method of quantum healing with a technique called quantum healing hypnosis therapy.
Yes.
Okay. Now, first I want to say, Ron, that I've had something very similar, very similar experience. So my interest and my questions will be coming from my experience as well.
Good.
So I'm really excited about this because I fully support what you're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
So would you tell us a little bit, kind of tell us what you've got going there?
Well, let me start with how I even heard about it.
Okay.
I had a friend online called Suzanne Spooner. Mm-hmm. She lives in Des Moines, and she was a Dolores Cannon student. And I had known her for a while, and I heard that she did this. Well, I had never been able to be hypnotized by any other. I'd practiced self-hypnosis for a long time, but I'd never been able to be hypnotized by anyone else. And I was talking to her about it, and I said, gee, I'd really like to do this past life regression stuff, but even Brian Weiss hasn't been able to hypnotize me. And she says, oh, it's a piece of cake, you won't have a problem. I said, well, it's a problem because you're in Des Moines and I'm in Miami. And she said, well, my husband and I are coming down to St. Petersburg because she didn't say because but it turns out that he's a stunt pilot and there was an air show. Mm-hmm. And would I feel like driving up to St. Petersburg to have a session? I said, sure. So she hypnotized me, and the things that we learned were rather earth-shaking for both of us. And we wanted to continue it, but again, she lived in Des Moines and I lived in Miami. So she asked me to move up there, and I did. And I personally had, over a year or so, somewhere in excess of 35 sessions. It's very rare for someone to have two.
Right.
Yeah. And we recorded those. Some of them are on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Some of them are just audio recordings on our own blog site. Mm-hmm. And I got to be very, very interested in this process because it was obvious that we had contacted an area of what Dolores Cannon calls the subconscious. And that was because she started more than 40 years ago, and they didn't have all these fancy terms like we have now. We would call it today your higher self, the communal consciousness, whatever. My son is a Buddhist. He calls it Buddha mind. Okay?
Right.
Yes.
When I first heard about this, and I'm kind of speaking for people who are just hearing about this for the first time.
Yes.
You mentioned the word hypnosis.
Yes.
A little fear thing comes up a lot of times. Okay. And I wanted to say that in my experience, the only reason why I agreed to this was because the foundation was of a spiritual or loving or self foundation, which then, took away. It had to be that way for me. And I can see, and I want people to see that is the same thing that you guys are doing. This is in a foundation of self and love and can we even say in protection?
You can. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's very, very common for people to have the stage hypnotist, I'm going to make you quack like a duck and hop across the stage.
Yes.
I've got control of your mind kind of a thing.
Right.
And first off, this is a misapprehension that stage hypnotists promote. Hypnosis does not put you under anyone else's control. It very, very rarely puts you into a state that's so deep that you don't remember everything that happened.
Right.
You've been there, so you knew what was going on when it was happening, didn't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Which I'm going to say kind of blew me away.
Yeah.
And which is the prize, because it is so pure, so me.
Yeah. Yes.
All I was done was guided to find me.
Yes.
And my construct, which is my office within, is what I call it, my office within, where I can do anything and everything.
Yeah.
So there, for peeps who are hearing this for the first time, there is no, it is the love that you are finding, that you are being guided to.
And Sheila, isn't it true that that is the mission that we are all of us on right now?
That's called awakening.
Yes.
Yes.
And so the reason I fell in love with Dolores Cannon's method is that the past life part of the session is very interesting. It's very nice to know, for instance, that I'll give you, because I can't talk about a client's stuff, so I'll talk about mine. It's very nice to know that the stabbing pain I used to get in my back when I was a kid, and which I no longer get, and this is what you learn by reading Brian Weiss. Once you see the reason, you don't have a problem anymore. Was because I had at one time been a samurai, and I had a stabbing pain in my back.
I know.
Okay.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, but with Dolores, if you have a session that's an hour and a half or 2 hours long under hypnosis, the whole thing takes much longer because of the interviews and everything. But if you're under for 2 hours, maybe 45 minutes to an hour of it is going through some past life stuff. And I'll tell you, that's not the important part of the session. It's important, yes. It'll give you a lot of answers. But at that point, the person who is your practitioner, is going to suggest that we speak to your subconscious. And if she or he finds out during the interview that you prefer to call it higher self or whatever, that's fine, we'll do that.
Sure.
And you will have brought a list of questions with you, hopefully, that have bothered you like forever. The most common question that everyone brings is, why am I here and what am I supposed to be doing? Right. Now, if somebody could give you a cell phone and say, look, why don't you call your higher self and ask that?
Yeah. Right?
Would you do it, right? Well, that's what you've got.
All right.
Because you're going to have a recording to take home with you where your higher self is talking to you in your own voice. And you can hear in the recording that the person who facilitated this session for you did not guide you anywhere.
Right.
They said, go to the appropriate time and place.
Yes.
Period.
Right.
And
we're all just little time travelers, aren't we?
We are. And I have seen more miracles. I mean, just emotional miracles, mental miracles, spiritual miracles, and even physical miracles. Since I've been doing this, it'll blow you away. You have no idea the power that you are until you get in that state and the power that you are is allowed to work.
Right.
So this is...
when I was being taught, I was with a group of people who were all it was my friend George Bernard, came from Australia. He had this intuition that said, I've got to go teach somebody over in the States how to do this construct. And he found our group, and he did like a couple of group sessions where he guided everybody at the same time. Well, I didn't go to those because for whatever reason, I didn't go. Well, he had been in town for a couple of weeks, and finally he was at another friend's house who lived nearby, and my friend Angus called me and said, Sheila, get here now. And so I ended up having, and this is how my guidance always works, I ended up having a special one-on-one session, and it is interesting how some people can just take to it and how others were having a difficult time. Okay, what do you have to say about that?
Well, several things. First off, you and I and everyone that's going to be listening to your show is used to the fact that they get what they get when they need to get it. Okay, this is like a mantra for us. Okay. However, when you go in for a QHHT session, and this is many of us finding now that we're getting doctors and lawyers and engineers and scientists and wow, how did this happen? You know, these are not your normal, you think of as light workers. Didn't used to be.
Right.
Now they're coming in though, and these are very left brain people. These are tax accountant people. You know, they think over here.
Right.
And they are not used to, most of them, to letting go and letting the other side of themselves work.
Oh, yeah.
So Dolores's method teaches them that it's the same as going to sleep at night. The tax accountant goes to sleep, and the dreaming person wakes up. And this concept person, picture person, dreaming person is the connection between you and your higher self. It's the one you wake up when you meditate.
Right.
And so the thing is that the practitioner has learned a method for helping you turn this off and turn this on. But that's only 10% of the process. 90% of the process is the person being able to allow that to happen and willing to receive what's possible.
Right. And there would be trust.
Exactly. Not just trust in the person who's doing the hypnosis either.
Right.
Trust in yourself.
Right. Will I lose control? Will I go out of control? Will I fly off into space and never return? I mean, it's those questions are so typical of everyone, and you know, I would just like to validate the. I mean, there are many methods to finding self.
Yes.
And even
thank goodness.
Yes, because that sure makes it a lot of fun, for one thing. And you just, well, like in my case now, where I get to meet everybody and see all their unique and special ways. And now we're attracting listeners who are, you know, finding their options. And they should most certainly know the facts about this one. So that, and I'm sure by the time that you've made it to a practitioner's office, you've got something going on saying, you know, this might be good. So you're already starting to open. And a little bit of knowledge is really all it takes to take away that mystery or the unknown that brings on that fear. And I don't think you've ever met anyone who's found themselves that said it was bad.
I never have. I've had several people who, in the first session, we're not able to let go. And they always think, because as we were speaking, that they haven't reached the state where they've blacked out and not knowing what's going on. That doesn't happen. Yeah. But that surprises them. So they say, well, I'm not in trance. I'm not under, you know. Right. However they are, they're at least into alpha, which is light hypnosis. And so what we do at that point is, what I do, and most of us do, is say, will you give me a key phrase, a key word that I can use to put you back in the state you're in, or even deeper, and we'll do this again. And they give me a key word like brontosaurus. It doesn't matter what it is. And you tell them that with their permission, and only with their permission, when you use that word, they will go back as deep as they are, or deeper. And please come back and I'll give you your next session for, you know. And I've had that happen. And then when they come back now, in addition to the fact that they've thought it over, they now know what it's like, and they gave you their own key word.
Right.
And bang, no problem the second time.
Right. Right. Because underlying even that is the desire to heal.
Yes. Now, speaking of healing, remember I said that it's possible to have emotional healing. That's the most common thing.
Oh, yes.
But sometimes people come with, specifically to ask about physical problems. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you 2 examples. And sometimes in the middle of the session, your higher self will tell you about a physical problem that wasn't even discussed. Or maybe you didn't even know about.
That's right.
I had a dear friend who arranged for me to take a trip to California and do 8 sessions for people in a little over a week. And she was, because of her own schedule, she moved herself to be the first client because she had other things to do later on. And she had had a hip locked up for a long time, and she hit it when she walked by, you know, but she didn't walk normally. And if she didn't tell you, you probably wouldn't notice it. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of the session, you know, we asked for a body scan. Would the higher self do a body scan and tell us anything that needed fixing? And you know, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. And then she heard, and I could hear sitting 3 or 4 feet from her, a pop.
Oh, nice.
And when she got up, she walked just like anybody else.
Oh, I love that.
And then during that same series, a person came in and had mentioned that her father had a tumor on his pineal gland and was going to have a brain operation.
Oh, my.
And I said, well, look, and I could tell this really upset her. Of course, it's her father.
Right.
And I said, well, I'll offer you something that we can try if you like. I said, when we are speaking to your higher self, we can ask your higher self to ask permission from your father's higher self for the subconscious to do a healing for him if he likes.
Right.
And she said, oh, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So when we finished almost the whole session, I did that. I asked her higher self to contact his higher self and get permission, ask for permission to do a healing. Mm-hmm. Higher self came back and said, yes, we have permission. I said, okay, will you heal his tumor now? Yes, I will. I said, okay, please let us know when you're done. It took a little over a minute. He came back and they came back and they said, oh, yeah, we're done. And I say they because quite often when you're speaking with this consciousness, it refers to itself as we.
Right.
Okay, you know that because you listen to channelers and all this other stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I found out now you very rarely hear back from a client later on.
Right.
But just a couple of weeks ago, I found out that this lady has since become a QHHT practitioner herself.
Nice.
And I was in the process of friending her on Facebook, and I looked down and I noticed that in December, she had posted that her father's had gone to an MRI pre-operation, and the doctor had said, "Oh, your tumor has deflated itself, and you don't need the operation anymore."
Wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love it. And I'm not sure why, that is really actually a relationship with self or with creator, really, that actual happening.
Yeah, see, we don't, this part of the consciousness we're talking about is actually part of us.
Right.
And our biggest problem, and we've heard this from all kinds of people, our biggest problem isn't the fear of what we might not be able to do.
Right.
Our biggest problem is the fear of the power that we really are.
Right. Ron, can you check your video? Can you? We've video content. Yeah, I did too, but
there we go.
There we go. Okay, we got it back now. Yes, is fear of our own self. Oh my.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that. I experience that often because every time I go to a next level, there does come a moment where I realize, oh my God, it just opens up. The universe keeps opening up. And seriously, once I got my construct where I can go in there and I am limitless.
Mm.
Okay, to find yourself at the level of limitless, that's very powerful.
Yeah, it is.
And I actually remember times retracting because I was like, I was blown away at knowing how powerful I had become. And I also think that, I think there's along with that awakening and healing, there comes a balance with the whole ego thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are kind of bypassing all that once you get into that level.
Mm-hmm.
And ego could, I think, interfere with that if you have not naturally come to that level.
Yeah. Ego considers that, and here's part of the problem with the hypnosis. Remember, we were talking about left brain, right brain.
Right.
Here's part of the problem that ego is used to having been in control for your whole life.
Right.
And loss of control is not looked upon well by the ego.
That's right.
And then, but once the ego is able to learn something, then there's no more problem. Once it learns that it can let go, once it finds that it can let go and let that other part of you work, and it isn't really threatening to itself, then it doesn't have a problem.
Right. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And is that kind of part of, you were talking about sort of like some pre-training before you get into the actual session. Is that part of the understanding part that you guys go through?
We have to teach two things before, we have to do two things. We have to teach one thing. We have to teach people as much as we can what it's going to be like, so that all these little stage hypnosis kind of misunderstandings are,
Yes. Yes.
And by the way, that's what those group sessions that like your friends went through, that's what those are good for too.
Yes.
You feel a little more comfortable when there's 10 other people in the room doing the same thing. So that's part of it. So we do a lot of telling them, look, well, for instance, you do this twice a day. What do you mean? Well, think of it. You lie down with the intention of going to sleep at night, you close your eyes. We're going to tell you that too because it shuts off the input.
Right.
And then you turn off the sound. Well, you get into that kind of a dreamy state. We do that by suggestion. Yeah.
Right.
And then you turn on the pictures. It's called dreaming.
Right.
So we go through this process. We tell them that's what's going to happen. And you're not going to lose consciousness. You're going to become super focused is what's going to happen.
Right.
And there are maybe 3 people out of 100 who will go into a deeply somnambulistic level and will not remember what happened when they come out. I've had a couple of people do that. I've had one person who did it during the last 10 or 15 minutes of their session.
Mm-hmm.
And in nearly 40 sessions of my own, I've had 2 sessions where I didn't remember what was going on. That was a little different because in both of those sessions, I was actually on a stage in front of a few hundred people. And I discovered that I could, even though we told everybody to turn their cell phones off, I could hear them. I could hear them vibrating. I could hear the people on the back table whispering to each other. Right. I didn't know what they were saying, but I knew they were whispering. And so I'm thinking to myself, I have to stay under. 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 And then Suzanne says, and when I count to 10, I want you to, and I think, what, are we done?
Right.
So it's not that I didn't know what was going on, it's that I wasn't paying any attention with this part of my brain to what she was saying.
Right.
The other part, it was great, that the right side of my brain operated fine. We had a great demonstration for the audience.
Okay, and let me just ask you, okay, when I say out-of-body experience, okay, how do you relate that term with perhaps those lost few minutes or... because I know, once I found myself, I could do anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have not had under hypnosis. I have not had an out-of-body experience. It actually was more like watching it was more like a lucid dream, where I'm watching what's going on over here. And it feels to me very, very, it feels exactly like channeling.
Right.
So, but I'm still here. I haven't.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's from where it's all coming from. Coming from that center back there and all.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this was fun. I look forward to your channels. I truly enjoy all your channels. They resonate with me well, and I do love the council, and I sure hope that this little session here will give some of the newcomers some ideas or tools, more tools to use in your very unique experience. And that's the other thing that this is so promotes, is that very special, unique experience. None of us are ever saying your experience is going to be like ours. that is the key thing, is that once you get to this level of awakening, you understand and value the unique experience. And what a wonderful tool to use to get there. You never get anywhere without your tools. And this is a tool collecting time for sure. So thank you so much. And okay, and I just want to add one little thing here, Ron. You know, I'm doing a series of shows on the divine masculine, the awakening of the divine masculine. And for your own journey, I mean, just off the top of your head, could you just say something about the guys and their awakening right now? I think it's exciting times because us girls have been doing this for a long time now. The guys, it's really getting intense for you guys, and I'm really enjoying the story. So could you just say something little about your awakening?
Well,
what is the meaning of life?
Oh, the simple questions.
Yeah.
I want to tell you that I started in 1969 when all you could get was Seth Brooks and Edgar Casey.
Well, those were good ones.
And yeah, they were. But it was exactly as you're saying. You go into a room, and if there's 50 people in there, there might be me and one other man.
You were lucky.
Yeah. And it's getting now more balanced.
Yes.
It's still not balanced, but it's much more balanced. And I actually, I can't say that I experienced an awakening of the divine masculine so much as I think in my personal experience, it's more like myself and some of the guys I know are more able to recognize the value of the strong part of the human family, which is the women.
Wise and smart. Oh, I'm telling you, Ron, you got it going.
Well, you know, okay, guys, you think you're so strong, go try and have a baby. Okay. Right?
That is brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So,
well, all right. Listen, it was great to see you. It's great to have you on. Hey, how are you enjoying Oregon?
Oh, I love it.
I was there last fall. I mean, that place is beautiful.
This house that I'm living in, during the summer and fall, I wasn't here before that, but we feed deer right out the back door.
Yep.
You know, and quail and
yes,
you name it.
The forests out there are just magical.
Yeah. There's probably 50 ponderosa pines right on this lot.
Nice. Nice. Nothing better than talking to a bunch of trees.
Yeah. No.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Ron. Thank you, listeners. Ron, where can you be reached?
I have real quick on my website, which is all small letters and no spaces, ronheadqhht.com. You'll see all kinds of contact information. That's the quickest way to tell you, because I've got several sites and pages.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in, and I sure hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. From my heart to yours, namaste.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.